Welcome in. What's going on? It's Kyle Henderson, Trey Yanity, BamaInsider.com. Monday, September 13th, we just posted Nick Saban's press conference along with Bryce Young. How's it going, Trey?
Doing good. How are you doing, Kyle?
Week 3 is here.
Finally,
Alabama
man.
now.
SEC is here.
You know, it was interesting because I woke up super early and I was like, since I've been covering the Alabama Crimson Tide, now 5 seasons, seen them lose 4 times. So, I asked on the message board today about the greatest dynasties that there's been. And I know everything is rat poison, right? Alabama now playing Southern Miss in 2 weeks at 6:30 under the lights. That is rat poison, right? It's like everything is rat poison.
Of course. This week, Mercer was, I think, the biggest rat poison game that we could have had. But yeah, no, Southern Miss will be as well. This will be as well. 4 losses. And Kyle, you talk about dynasties in college football. How about all of sports? I can't think of any franchise, even at the big league level. You could argue maybe the New England Patriots. But
Sure.
This is truly a dynasty. This is a test, though, this week for Alabama. This could be that loss number 5. I personally don't think it's going to be. I know it's Monday. I don't want to spoil my score prediction or anything. That's way later in the week. But I think this is going to be probably Alabama's greatest test on the road at the Swamp. It's going to be a good one.
Let us know where you're coming from inside the comment box. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. The more thumbs up, the higher frequency our channel gets. So also super chats, certainly welcome. It's basically like a tip for the staff. He's Trey Yanity. I'm Kyle Henderson coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa. Just a fabulous day out here. A lot of winners and a lot of losers from this past weekend. We were talking about that before the show. One of my favorite clips from social media too, we were watching that, was when the cat at the Miami game, he flies from the stands and they catch him in an American flag on 9/11.
Just so poetic, Kyle. It's crazy how they draw this stuff up. But it's some awesome moments this week and some winners and some losers. Alabama, I think just kind of a neutral party as it goes. But really a crazy week in the SEC. Is Texas, I guess, not back now?
Well, Arkansas, there's the winner, right? And yeah, you're right. Texas is not back. There was some funny social media memes that went on about Texas losing. How about Ohio State losing to Oregon? Oregon, they didn't look bad, but they never look bad at the beginning of the season, right? They're always that team. And Mario Cristobal does a great job with that squad. We're going to pipe in Saban's press conference in just a little bit, letting everybody get checked in. We're talking some winners and losers as we kind of start off the show. And Florida State lost in the last second to Jacksonville State.
Walk off.
Wow. With the walk-off, right? Where's some other winners and losers? You liked Iowa.
I liked Iowa a lot. It's this defense. And, the Big Ten isn't that strong this year. I think Penn State, team we're going to see play Auburn this weekend, that's going to be a lot of fun. They could maybe win the Big Ten, but I like Iowa a lot this season. Really, the Big Ten is back, I think, as far as defense goes as a whole. That's been fun to see. Other winners this week, I don't know. Alabama, I think you could consider a winner because they're making adjustments. And like we talked about, they're going to kind of be a little bit under the radar this week. So, they tuned some things up for Florida. I think you could say Florida was a winner this week. They went down to South Florida and got prepared for this Alabama team. So,
and I think when you look kind of at, what Florida is going to present to Alabama and the challenges, you have 2 quarterbacks that they've been kind of rotating out. Before we get going, let's provide an update on William Anderson Jr., probably the most notable update of the day. Saban talking about William Anderson Jr., who suffered, looks like a minor knee injury. But here's Saban talking about William Anderson. It's a quick update, so here you go.
A day off today is kind of day to day, but we feel a little more encouraged than maybe after the game. So we'll just see how he progresses through the course of the week.
So a really quick update right there from Nick Saban. And if you missed it, if you're looking at your phone or whatever, basically the update is this: he's day to day, and that's great news for Alabama, especially going against Florida. And I was just kind of alluding to the fact that going against Florida, it's certainly going to present challenges. Saban, and we're going to go through this press conference and kind of dive into it a little bit more. He said that there's the 2 quarterbacks, you don't prepare for them any different. And he's talking about Emory Jones and AR-15. We watch Florida, high potent offense. They don't have the weapons that they had last year, but they're still a quality team. And Dan Mullen is a great offensive mind.
No, this team is loaded, Kyle. It's not the team it was last year, but you look at this receiving core, they return their not their best receiver, but Copeland now is their best receiver, returning from that core of really talented group last year. But outside of that, I almost want to make the argument against the 2 quarterbacks being tricky for Alabama, because now your offense has to change around those 2 quarterbacks as a whole. Alabama, yes, they're going to have to scheme against 2 different guys, really 2 different offenses. But week 3, Kyle, on the road, I think Alabama is a little bit more prepared for a challenge like this than this young Florida team is prepared to try to run two different offenses against an Alabama defense that has looked pretty potent. Now, if Will Anderson is not, available for this game, it's going to change a lot of things. And Nick Saban did say day to day. I think that's positive. He said, what was it? Encouraging steps from Will Anderson. So, I think everything's headed in the right direction for this defense, but it really does provide some challenges. I got to ask your opinion. Who would you go to, Emory Jones or AR-15? They both look really good.
Well, Mitchell. What's up, Mitchell Smith? Thanks for joining us. He's asking the same question.
Oh, there
he
you
said,
go.
which Florida quarterback do you see having the best success? Look, I think AR-15, I think he's the quarterback to go to. I think that he presents more challenges. He's the better athlete. I think that he's the guy that seems to have a little bit more momentum. When you look at Emory Jones, he has 4 interceptions in these first 2 games. First 2 games, my goodness. You kind of look at the start that Bryce Young has had, and you look at the start that he's had. With that said, Emory Jones is a dangerous quarterback, especially, in a game of this magnitude. What they did last week doesn't matter this week. So I'm probably going with the younger quarterback, but I think Emory Jones is certainly going to get some playing time. And Mullen's trying to figure out what the best, offensive lineup for him is going forward. There's a lot on the line with this game, but I think that, Florida will certainly have their bag of tricks ready for Alabama. Ricky Smith, thanks for joining us. Will we find some leaders this week? And I think that's a great question when you talk about leadership and who's going to really step up. And I think it's time for us to really swap over. We're going to play Saban's press conference. We're going to also play Bryce Young's press conference. He just spoke to the media just about 20 minutes ago. So you can watch those on our YouTube channel. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. Here's Bryce Young. Let's talk about Bryce Young and kind of the poise that he has, the leadership, and about him playing in the swamp. I'm going to swap over. I think it's at the let's see. He's talking about the challenges and kind of his excitement of playing at the swamp.
Too quick, if I could. Have you ever played in an environment anywhere approaching what you'd expect to see down in Florida?
I wouldn't say so. This is a really, again, we know the challenges that that are in front of us this weekend. We know how hostile of environment is going to be. For me, it's, and really for everyone on the team, it's something that coach is going to prepare us for, something that coaches, something we're not taking lightly at all. And we know that we have to work on making sure that we have everything right during the week, making sure that we're good in our communication, and making sure that we have everything repped well during the week. So, we know the challenges ahead.
And when you went back and watched the film of your game Saturday, how would you assess, some of the deep balls? It seemed like maybe a step off, bad luck with some penalties. How would you assess some of that downfield throwing?
Yeah, I think Coach Saban really summed it up well. I think when he talked about our preparation and how we prepared last week, that was something that he talked to us about a lot, just in meetings and throughout the week. And I think it really showed. I think we didn't do a great job preparing last week. And I think when we don't prepare and we don't push ourselves to be as good as we can be during the week, then, mistakes start to come up. And I don't feel like as a team, we're very proud of what we put on film this weekend. And, that's something that we have to, acknowledge, watch, learn from, and make sure that we're growing this week and making sure that we're preparing and pushing ourselves during practice.
That's Bryce Young. We just heard from him. You can watch his full interview on BamaInsider YouTube channel. Just search BamaInsider. He's Trey Yanity. I'm Kyle Henderson, coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa. Thank you to our viewers on this beautiful week. It's a SEC opener for Alabama. I'm curious to see what type of energy that this team has against Florida. Alabama, 15-point favorite going into this game. Nick Saban just said that Will Anderson day to day. So if you're joining us late, that is a positive note, positive nugget. He also mentioned that Jalen Armour-Davis and Josh Jobe, they should be good to go. So there was a kind of going in this week, I think a lot of people were trying to figure out, is Alabama going to be without 4 potential starters? Remember, Chris Allen lost for a good amount of the season, but it looks like Alabama is going to be ready to go on defense. Trey, we were talking about this before our show. Alabama has, not a good week at practice. They come out, they look lethargic against Mercer, probably uninspired. And I get it. Who wasn't uninspired during that game? I, for one, feel that those teams should never play each other. But with that said, Nick Saban is a genius at setting up these games to get a rise out of his team, to get them dialed in, to get them focused. I think when you looked to last week, that's certainly going to help this week. And you got to think that these guys are really dialed in going into one of the biggest games of the weekend in college football.
Oh, certainly. I mean, these games really don't mean anything. I'm with you. I don't think they need to be played. For Mercer, it's a really cool experience. Those players get to come play in Bryant-Denny Stadium and, play against the number one team in the country. That's a cool deal, whether you win or lose that game. Obviously, Mercer knew what they were stacked up against this weekend. But at the end of the day, it is a great motivator for these kids when they don't go out and have the ultimate amount of success. And, you look at that game, you think about the defense, you think, well, 2 touchdowns to Mercer. We didn't really even allow that to Miami, who was a top 15 team in the country at the time. So why was that the case on Saturday against Mercer? Well, they didn't have Josh Jobe, and they didn't have JAD back there as well. The cornerback looked a lot different. It was Ja'Kinsey McQuinstry, and he looked good at times, but at the end of the day, he was burned in coverage, on one of those touchdowns. So this weekend will look different. But at the end of the day, you can look at the score if you're Nick Saban and use that to motivate your team and say, you'll have 14 points to this Mercer team. And, you can look at the penalties and say, you were sloppy here and you got an unsportsmanlike penalty here. And there was just so many things we can tune up. So at the end of the day, you won the game handily. You were up 31-0 at the half, but you saw that look on their face going in the locker room. They were making mistakes. And I think that's what you use to motivate everybody for Florida, because you really can't make those kind of mistakes against the Gators.
Here on BamaInsider, definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. He's Trey Yanity. My name is Kyle Henderson. As we kind of swap back to Nick Saban's press conference, and again, you can hear from Nick Saban and watch the full press conference in its entirety on BamaInsider.com. Nick Saban talked about the running back room. And kind of, after 2 games, I know it's a small sample size, but, kind of gave us a little taste of his thoughts on the running back room. Here's Saban on the running back room. And then we'll kind of give our take. And I want to hear from you inside the comment box, because I feel that there's one running back that's certainly emerging out of this group
so far this season, especially some of the younger guys behind Brian.
I think they've done well. I think that, we missed a couple reads, in the game. We could have had much more positive plays, cut some things back that we shouldn't have, didn't hit it downhill when we should have. But I think these are the things that I'm talking about that are good learning experiences for these guys. But, Jace played really well in the game, and, Trey and Roydale are both getting more and more experience. So I'm kind of pleased with the way those guys are coming along.
That was Saban on the running back. And Trey, you're getting some flack inside the comment box.
I know.
So Brian and the other Jay is they're upset.
Let me rephrase. If Josh Jobe is playing, I think he picks up Daniel Wright's mistake and is able to get over and make that play. Kool-Aid didn't get the communication there. He didn't get burned, yes, but I think it looks differently if Josh Jobe is playing there. And, I think this defense is just going to look a little bit more stable when Malachi Moore can, like they had him in week 1, can play, not in that star role. I loved seeing Brian Branch at the star position. I like seeing DeMarco Helms back this weekend as well. But what I'm trying to say is, if Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis are there, you take the youth out of it and any kind of miscommunication, and Daniel Wright off the field as well, because obviously I have a feeling that the other Jay and Brian Green agree that Daniel Wright maybe doesn't need to be playing too often any further. But yes, please keep me honest, guys. He was not burned.
All right. So, look, I was getting to the running back room, and Mitchell beat me there, saying Jace McClellan. Look, if you really want to know the truth, I think Jace McClellan should be the starter 100% for Alabama going forward. I think Brian Robinson, look, he's done a fantastic job. He's a great spokesman, great ambassador for the University of Alabama. I'm not saying don't play him anymore. There's short yardage situations. I mean, Brian Robinson's a bell cow, right? But I think the overall, if you really, really want the best running back for Alabama, it's got to be Jace. I think that he's a guy who can be an all-purpose back. I think, look, and someone said it on here. Ricky's saying this is the best running back room in the country. Yeah, I agree, of course. It's every single year you can say that, right? We still don't even know what happened with Kamar Wheaton. Before, I think last week, Saban said he was injured or something like that. We never have heard a follow-up. I don't think it's anything serious, but, the running backs that they have right now, Brian Robinson, Jace, Trey Sanders. I mean, we saw Trey this last game. I mean, he looks great as well. But I'm telling you, I feel that Jace McClellan is the best running back in the room. Do you disagree?
I think that we need to give this room a little bit more time. This is one thing. We agree a lot on this team and, kind of who needs to be in what spots. But I'm not giving up quite yet on anybody in this room. And, it's not to say that you're giving up on Brian Robinson, but I want to wait a couple more weeks. I think they all have really high ceilings. I think, Trey Sanders has maybe shown some of the best side-to-side ability at times this season, but Chase McClellan has shown the best burst of speed. Maybe Brian Robinson gives you that bull rush ability that the other two don't. I think you can utilize all of them really well. I don't think they need to turn to maybe just one guy. Roydell Williams got in at the end of the game, looked pretty good. He's looked good these first two. So I think, you can give it some time here and really just kind of try some different things out, because they all give you a lot of different tools in different spots of the field, different points in the game. But, maybe if you're having to lean on one, if I had to pick one guy to take to start a new team, maybe that's Chase McClellan. Yeah. But, I think you can use them all.
I want to show this photo. I think I have it right here. This is of Jace. All right, let me zoom in. I don't know if people know like how jacked Jace is, but clearly he doesn't miss the weight room very often. Right? I mean, the guy is, he's a prototypical Alabama running back. And let me tell you, Roydell Williams looks the same.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not far off from Jace. So those two guys, great tandem along with Trey Sanders. And you're right. I'm not giving up on Brian Robinson. I just think the best overall running back right now, in my opinion, is Jace McClellan.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone asked inside the comment box about Florida's quarterbacks. And I think that's on a lot of people's mind. Saban was asked about that just earlier. Let's get to it. I think it's at the 4-minute and 30-second mark. Talking about Florida's two quarterbacks. Here's what Coach Saban had to say today.
Had two players out in the secondary, Joe and Armour Davis. Just wanted to update them.
Yeah. First of all, they do have a 2-quarterback system. I don't think you prepare differently. Both guys have ability to make plays passing, and they run the same sort of quarterback runs with both guys, and both guys are very talented in both areas. So, when the quarterback can run and they run quarterback runs, it's almost like playing against Wildcats. So they've got an extra blocker, but they also have the ability to make big plays in the passing game, which they've made, and been pretty efficient in the passing game. So it's more challenging when you play against, guys, and both guys are very efficient, effective passers as well as runners.
That is Coach Saban talking about Florida's quarterbacks. Look, this is going to be a challenging game for Alabama, the most challenging game that they've had thus far. We all know that. With that said, Alabama is still a 15-point favorite. Now that we kind of know a little bit more about William Anderson's status, and if you missed that, if you're just joining us, Saban said at the beginning that Anderson is day-to-day, which in my opinion means that he's probably going to be good to go for Saturday. Trey, when you look at this game from the outside, we cover Alabama football. We watched Florida in early on, and look, Florida hasn't looked polished, but they still have these playmakers. I love their quarterback set. I know that Emory Jones has thrown four interceptions to open these games. I still saw him with a big arm. He's still a very athletic quarterback. I think that there could be some problems for this defense. Miami wasn't a challenge. Mercer wasn't a challenge. Florida is going to be a challenge. You got to think.
Oh, it certainly is. This game is your first true test. And, one of the only true tests at this point that we're looking at on the schedule this season. Florida is a pretty complete team. They have a very solid defense. They have really good offense, and they're super well coached. So this is a team that Alabama kind of mirrors in a sense with some of their youth. But, you look at that Florida defense, and I think you look at their box scores, and it's a little bit deceiving. I think that defense is better than it gets credit for. Now, they haven't played an Alabama type of offense quite yet. And I think Bryce Young is going to present a lot of challenges for anybody he plays this year. But, we'll see Ventrell Miller kind of, I think, recuperate a little bit this week. I think that Florida secondary is going to kind of figure some things out as well. I like that Florida defense a lot, but I think Alabama is going to scheme to, just kind of break it down like they did Miami's. Spread the field, work in a lot of different guys, work in those running backs in some tricky kind of ways, do some dump offs, whatever it takes to kind of just throw them off, not let that secondary get too activated. And on the other side of the football, I think Alabama's defense is just going to kind of have to wait and see. Anthony Richardson did have a hamstring deal this Saturday. He has been quoted as Dan Mullen's quote is saying he's day-to-day. So, we'll kind of see on him as well, like Will Anderson. But if it is Jones, if it's both of them, I think Alabama's just got to try to protect against the deep ball. We saw that was a huge problem for South Florida this weekend when it was Richardson in the game. So protect against the deep ball. Don't let them beat you with their legs, and, just do what you can on defense.
Here's Saban talking about Alabama's defense going into week 3.
Yeah, Coach, could you kind of evaluate how your defense has performed the last couple games? I know there's some things to clean up, but just how it's played so far.
Well, I think at times, if you look at how we played in the first half, I guess we've given up 3 points in 2 games in the first half, and given up 14 and 10 in the second half. So I think we have to sustain consistency and performance. We gave up the 61-yard touchdown in the last game, which was kind of a coverage error on a couple guys' part, and we had a total bust when the twos were in there that gave them another touchdown. But I think at times we've played really, really well. I just think it's the same song, consistency and performance. Can you play for 60 minutes in a game? Can you sustain your performance for 60 minutes in a game? And so that's kind of what we're focused on and what we're trying to get our players to do.
Go to Charlie Potter.
That was Saban talking about the defense. Look, I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a long time, because a lot of people, Trey, when I first started this, and I started this 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, I don't know. Now there's like live shows on every single channel, which I love. I mean, I get it. Everybody wants to do kind of voice off their opinion and stuff. But I used to read off the Pro Football Focus grades, and I thought that was fun. It would kind of give you an indication of how these teams are doing, and I want to share those, and I want to talk about I'll showcase the defensive grades. And if you want to see more grades, you can go to BamaInsider. And maybe I'll start doing this more, because I think a lot of people kind of get a better insight from the grades. And I know it's against Mercer, but I think that the Pro Football Focus grades give you another angle to look at the grades. Now, let me explain the Pro Football Focus grades before I show them on the screen, because it's something that certainly gets people fired up. Pro Football Focus is a company that has scouts and that played in the NFL, that coached in the NFL, that coached at college. What they do when they leave the coaching realm, they work for Pro Football Focus, right? And they grade these players. They go to games, they watch games on TV, and then they provide grades of the players. So these aren't the grades for Alabama football. The grades that I'm about to show you, anything over 90 is mind-blowing, right? Because they're hardcore critical on these guys. I think a lot of times Alabama fans, they see Alabama, and if you hear anything negative about them, you get so upset. Well, they're not perfect. So these grades reflect that. So it works like a scoring scale. Again, 90, if you get a 90 in school, what is it? It's an A. If you get an 80, it's a B. A C is a 70, right? So with that said, here are the Pro Football Focus grades against Mercer. Okay. And let me kind of walk you through this so you can kind of understand. I'll zoom in and kind of walk you through it. So as you can see on the screen, these are the Pro Football Focus grades against Mercer. At the top of your screen, you got Byron Young. He had the best grade overall on the defensive side of the ball. Now, one of the most important things to look at when you're looking at these grades is the total number of snaps that they played. So the total, as you can see, Byron Young played in 34 snaps against Mercer. That's pretty good, right? I mean, you want to, on the offensive side, you're going to see that the snap counts are a lot higher. With Byron Young playing 34 snaps, he graded out at 85.4. Then you go to Marcus Banks, and I think this is really important, because Marcus Banks right here, he's not a natural starter for Alabama, right? He's behind Job, and he's behind Jalen Armour Davis, 83.3. This is very important because you're looking for these younger guys to step up, to get opportunities. You got DJ Dell, 78.5. in only 21 snaps. So the more snaps you play, the more we can tell from your overall grade. So, for example, when Pro Football Focus distributes this information, we're not going to look at Brian Branch, who only played in 5 snaps, and then be like, oh, he graded 72, right? You want a larger quantity, right? So when we kind of sort this out by the most snaps, you see that Kool-Aid JaQuincy McKinstry up at the top played in 57 snaps. Another guy who's just a true freshman, and his grade is 70.2. Look, that's not bad. I mean, I know people are like, he didn't get burned. I get it. He didn't get burned, but he wasn't perfect. And I guarantee you, Nick Saban saying that he wasn't perfect. None of these guys are. But as you can see, in his first game starting, getting a C against Mercer, I think there's room for improvement. And there's nothing wrong with room for improvement. These guys are coming here, and they're not going to be perfect overall, right? You look at Christian Harris, a veteran inside linebacker, a 49 total, and he had a snap of he had a grade of 77.4. That's good against Mercer, because you don't see a wing T, a wishbone type offense too much. Again, we already talked about Marcus Banks. So I wanted to show you those grades. I know a lot of people like And, I'll try to do that more often if you guys are interested. And I want to see more of you guys in here during the live chats, so hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to move to the offense, and then I'll show you the offensive grades. If you guys are interested, just let me know inside the comment box, and I'll throw the offensive grades. I want to go back to Saban and talk about the progress and the early season progress of Bryce Young through 2 games. And here's Coach Saban talking about the progress of Bryce Young. And I think that's at 8:20. Here we go.
Yeah, in general, you've talked in the past about the progress between week 1 and week 2. After you watched the film of Bryce, what did you see in terms of the progress, the little things that he did?
Well, I think Bryce has played well in both games. I don't, like I keep saying this, how did the players around him play? And that's what I think we need to continue to improve on, the overall timing in the passing game, efficiency in runs and RPOs and the things that, we try to tie together in our offense. I think it's the entire unit that has to grow and develop. And we're making progress. We're not probably there yet, but we're making progress. But I think, Bryce played well in the first game, and I thought he played well Saturday.
Go to Nick.
That was Coach Saban talking about the progress of Bryce Young through 2 games. Look, I know it's 2 games. It's a small sample size, but what we've seen from Bryce Young has been pretty incredible considering this is his time to take over the reins. I know you were watching Miami and New England. I know you're watching Jalen Hurts throw to Devontae Smith. As we were talking about earlier, Devontae Smith caught the touchdown.
Cool
The first touchdown of his career comes from Jalen Hurts. Okay, that's cool. But he caught it in the same end zone where he caught the natty.
I saw a picture of the 2 touchdowns right next to each other. It was so cool. I mean, what a great moment from Jalen Hurts too. Unbelievable.
I know, crazy. The early season progress of Bryce Young. I mean, the kid came out. I mean, he's been fantastic. I mean, what's your take on kind of the poise, the presence, his arm strength, his ability to move around the pocket? Your take?
Yeah, I mean, he is a superhuman. We figured that out over the last few weeks, even in the way that he does these press conferences, the way he talks to the media, everything else. Bryce Young is unbelievable at what he does here. He's going to be able to have success in this game for a long time. But Kyle, I don't think this is something that, is just happening now. I think this is something that, like you heard him say in his press conference today, they've been preparing for a long time. He has put in a lot of work to get to this point. And I think this started when he got to campus, even before then. I think this has been, really the hardest part was learning the playbook, was getting with this coaching staff, with a new offensive coordinator, some other new guys, and figuring out a good mesh there. But I think the prep has been going on for so long. I think Bryce Young just needed to prove it to everybody else. I think he'd already proved it to himself, his teammates, his coaches. He was ready to go. And now we're just coming to this realization, okay, the kid's got it. I wasn't a doubter necessarily, but I had my doubts coming into the season. We've only seen 2 games. It's a small sample size, but we also saw those other practices. And, we've also seen what he's been doing during the weeks leading up to these games and what he's doing in game. I don't think he could be doing anything else better at this point. It's a little bit of a slower start, but that's a few different things. The line got out to a slow start in that game as well, and he figured it out. Somebody asked him a question today. I think it was, what was kind of going through your head on some of those deep balls, and you didn't look quite as comfortable. And he said we just weren't quite as prepared. That's something we went over all week in practice. We just weren't as prepared, and that's on me. He's always taking responsibility. He knows what he does wrong when he slips up. I guess we got the Pro Football Focus grades. I know his are going to be pretty high, but even on the things they're not giving him credit for there, I think he understood immediately what he did wrong, and I think he's just going to continue to get better.
This is actually a pretty good point right here. Now I'm going to talk about the offensive grades in just a second. Our wide receivers, and I think kind of goes to the fans of Alabama that I think they're so accustomed to these first-round draft picks at the wide receiver position. Would you say that anyone on this team is a first-round draft pick? I think it's up for debate. I think people are going to point to Mechie.
Yeah.
Is Mechie a first-round guy? I think there's a lot of people who would probably say no. And that's not a knock on Mechie, but I mean, he's not Jerry Jeudy, he's not Henry Ruggs, he's not Waddle, he's not Devontae Smith, and I'm not knocking on John Mechie. I think that John Mechie is the most well-spoken individual.
Oh, he's great.
I think the guy, what he does, he's going to come up with several big plays this year. I'm just saying that I think people just, you got to face reality, and this team has playmakers at the wide receiver position. Go ahead.
I want to say this too to some of our subscribers here in the comments talking about being spoiled and whatever else. I think it's only fair because of what you've been watching. You've been watching some of the greatest wide receivers ever play this game at the college level. But I also want to say, maybe we're just watching this get reset. I remember back to 2017, my first year here in town. Kyle, what week was it? 4 or 5 when they played Texas A&M. That's really when we saw Henry Ruggs come out of his shoes. We saw Jerry Jeudy really start to come onto the scene. I mean, it wasn't necessarily right away for some of those guys too. So I think give it some time. The reality of it, yes, they haven't looked like Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs or Devontae Smith quite yet. But I think the Ja'Cory Brooks, the Christian Leary, some of these guys we haven't even seen yet could turn into these guys. Just give it time. It's like the running back room. Just give it a little bit of time.
Let's zoom in on these Pro Football Focus grades. I know people wanted to see the offense. So here you go. Again, if you're just joining us, Pro Football is an organization of former coaches that played at the league, coached at the highest level, and then they grade the players and provide us the grades after the game. And as you can see, I always look at the total. That means the snap counts. The higher the snap counts, the better depiction of the grade is, right? So you want to look at higher snap counts. You don't want to look to like Amari Kite, only played 3 snaps and he has a grade of 64. Well, you didn't even play that much, so don't even look at that grade. But one grade that you can look at is Bryce Young, and he played in 51 snaps against Mercer. He has a grade of 90.5. Again, if you get a 90 on Pro Football Focus grade, like you are straight balling because they don't just hand out A's. They're not Alabama fans. So last game against Miami, if you really want to know the truth, he had a grade of 64.5. And I know people are like, what? They're going to freak out. Look, I don't grade quarterbacks. That's just what the grade was. You look to JoJo Earl, and I want to highlight him because he's just a freshman at Alabama, 130 all-purpose yards. I think he should be the kick returner. I think he needs the football more. I'm sure that Alabama's trying to figure out more ways to get him the ball. I think that, I'd like to see if Coach P, Honoré Uso calls him, JoJo the joystick. I don't know if it's going to stick, but he had a grade of 86.8 in 29 total snaps. John Mechie, we're just talking about, 43 total snaps, 75.6. Darian Dalcourt, this is very important because he's playing the center position. The star in this third column or whatever, fourth column, that represents if the player started. Darian Dalcourt did start. He's been starting at center, 65 snaps. You see that they let him play the majority of the time to get those reps. And he had a grade of 71.4. Now, if I zoom on the starters, right, you're going to see these are the players that started. Jamison Williams had a grade of 56.2. Big drop.
Wow.
Right? Personal foul. Got his helmet knocked off and went after a player. I don't know if those type of, results go into the grades. I don't know, but maybe. Kendall Randolph only played in 7, so don't worry about that grade. Evan Neal, had a grade of 59.2, which is interesting because he was also named Alabama Player of the Week on offensive line. So again, these aren't Alabama grades. I'm just telling you what they're showing us from Pro Football Focus. So kind of gives you a better understanding. And like I was saying, look at the total snaps. Most of the guys from the offensive line played almost 60 snaps because that tells me that Alabama is trying to figure out the best way to utilize this offensive line. So hope you guys enjoy that. And, I'll do that more frequently. If you guys are interested to learn more about the Pro Football Focus grades, drop me a note inside the comment box. Folks, my day is completely swamped. If you want to know the truth, I have a meeting every single morning at 9 a.m., at 10 a.m., then Trey comes over at 11:30. We prep. We have Saban at 12 p.m. And then we have the player interviews at 12:30 p.m. We have a live show at 1 p.m. I got an interview right now with Andrew Bone at 2 p.m. I got another interview for our college sportsbook site at 3 p.m. I got my kids come home. I tell them hi at 3:30 p.m. I got Alabama Crimson Tide footage at 5 p.m. Got Monday Night Quarterback at 6 p.m. This
man doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
Does not stop. And it's Florida week. It's time for SEC football, Kyle. It's only getting crazier every year.
Yeah, so look, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. He's Trey Yanity. I'm Kyle Henderson. Go watch Nick Saban's press conference along with Bryce Young. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Be productive. If you guys need anything from me, my email, Kyle@BamaInsider. But just hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. And Ricky Smith's like, how much time you got? As much time as the good Lord allows. So I'm gonna live each day to my fullest and have a great time covering Alabama Crimson Tide. You guys hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We'll catch you next time right here on BamaInsider.com.